booked this tour thinking it would be a simple sightseeing trip. A few half-decent views of the fjord from a height. I was wrong. What I saw at the top of Dalsnibba, I think I've said that right, of Dalsnibba mountain took my breath away. And it might just be one of the most underrated views in all of Norway. This is my journey to the Geiranger Skywalk perched atop Dalsnibba mountain. So it's safe to say I wasn't prepared. Quite honestly, I didn't arrive in Geiranger with any kind of plan. We had about 10 hours in port, which is extremely long compared to the one other time I've been in this port, and I figured I'd just walk around in the morning and maybe book a tour for the afternoon. You don't need to book a tour in advance with your cruise company here because all of the tour companies are right by the dock, and if you're spending an extremely long amount of time in port, you don't really have to worry about getting back. So after having a relaxing walk around and visiting the top of the waterfall in the morning, I booked a simple coach tour with 2 stops. There was an option for a 3-stop tour, but in true make it up as I go fashion, I chose the 2-stop one as it fit within my schedule better. Beyond a few photos I'd glanced at online, I really didn't know what I was in for. Turns out the photos I was looking at were probably of this one I can't pronounce, Geiranger Rock and Eagle's Bend viewpoint. I didn't know this at the time. And as for Dalsnibba mountain, I didn't even know it existed as an option, right? So full disclosure, I don't exactly remember which viewpoint we stopped at first. I think it was Geiranger Rock. But it could have been this one I can't pronounce. Either way, if you think you've figured it out, feel free to correct me in the comments below, as these 2 spots seem quite close together. Honestly, I was expecting the tour to just be a series of these types of viewpoints around the fjord. And if that had been the case, I'd have actually been totally happy. You get an amazing view, looking down over the fjord, though you'll have to jostle a bit with other people trying to get their perfect shot. But for someone like me, more introverted and not the type to muscle through for the best angle, I still passed that test. I got my footage without too much hassle. But then we got back on the coach, and what amazed me is it just kept going higher and higher. The second half of the tour was something else entirely. The road we took, this insane winding path that you'd never think a full-size coach could navigate, kept twisting upwards, offering better and better views out the window. I found myself in mutual awe with the person next to me, another solo traveller as it happened. Well, again, one of those serendipitous conversations that happens, right? Every turning revealed a new impossible view, until suddenly the landscape changed completely. That's when I realised we weren't just climbing a mountain, we were about to stand on top of it. Even the commentary from the guide about the isolated little spots we passed added an extra layer of intrigue. And then the lake, I'm going to put it on screen because again I can't pronounce it, frozen and still, was just absolutely surreal. This lake is right along Route 63, which, fun fact, is a detour off the famous Route 15. Route 15 is one of Norway's most scenic roads, winding through the mountains and connecting the interior to the western fjords. It's the kind of route that makes me wish it was easier to get a camper van over here without driving through half of Western Europe. I found myself daydreaming about a camper van trip through Norway, taking in all these incredible landscapes. What I learned at the frozen lake, half daydreaming, I realised I had no idea just how high we were going to end up. The Geiranger Skywalk is up on Dalsnibba mountain, one of the peaks you can see from the village below. But when I stepped out onto the skywalk, I just couldn't believe where I was standing. Below me, sheer drops into the fjord. Ahead, endless mountain peaks stretching into the clouds. I didn't think I've ever felt so small and yet so completely in awe. For the brave souls out there, some people ventured beyond the paved viewpoint to get shots from the rocky edge. While there was no crazy TikTokers this time like there was in other locations, on other, on other cruises, it was definitely not for the faint of heart or those that weren't unsure of their footing. But if heights don't bother you, it was a fantastic spot. If you find yourself in Geiranger, book a coach tour, you won't regret it. Sure, some of the mid-level viewpoints are nice, but make sure, absolutely make sure, that your tour includes the Skywalk on Dalsnibba mountain. It's an unforgettable experience. While some elements of my Norwegian Prima cruise through Norway have given me Norway experiences which just equally compare to, say, Switzerland or other mountain locations, this viewpoint was spectacular and stood out on its own. It's an unforgettable experience. Sure, it's hard for any tour like this to compete with actually hiking through mountain areas, but the Skywalk is as crazy and as beautiful as Geiranger gets.